So your first year at the academy, your plebe year, so you did plebe summer, and then you started school there. What was that like?
It was cool. I had great expectations, as you might imagine. I thought I was the big fish in my high school, and I had big goals and big dreams of becoming a valedictorian of the school and wanting to be on the superintendent's list, which is a 3, 4 or higher, an A in military bearing, an A in um, leadership, an A in fitness, and at least a 3.4.
Hmm.
So that was my goal my first year. And what happened was completely opposite. So yeah, it's you don't know the type of education you had at when I was in high school, and I went to music high school. It was a neighborhood high school that my my mom and dad basically, this is where I live, so
Hmm.
you just went to a neighborhood high
Gotcha.
school, and I was prepared to sing and all that stuff, but I was not academically prepared.
Hmm.
And I still remember my first year, I got like a 1.98, which is
Hmm.
less than a 2.0, which is a D average. And that didn't sit well with me at all. And yeah, it was rough. And I was on the karate team, and I was doing well with that. I felt like a true valedictorian in martial arts. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's you don't really know how smart you are academically until you go to a better institution or a worse institution. You just think you're just as smart as a kid
Hmm.
in your high school class. So it was rough the first year.
Right. And so you started right away with martial arts, right? You got there and you're like, this is what I'm set on, so let's go straight for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then at any point, did you ever question that? Did you decide maybe this isn't right or it's too much or?
Yeah. Uh, that first semester, um, I I was always doing martial arts. We had to play a sport, so there was no question that was going to be my sport. And um, I was thinking, and a lot of parents or a lot of students will think this way, that when you're not doing well, you cut off activities that to save time and do homework,
Hmm.
right? And and so I thought, hey, I'm putting in a lot of time in martial arts, so why don't I cut back, study, and do all of that stuff for my second semester, kind of re-strategize. And I actually did worse.
Hmm.
So I went from like a 1.96 to maybe a 1.8 or 1 point
Ooh.
something. So
Hmm.
it made it worse. And so at that point, I thought I wasn't gonna make it out of the Naval Academy. I got in, but I wasn't sure. I was doubting myself, and which is normal. And so I had to go to summer school. And as a matter of fact, I went to summer school for chemistry, and then I wanted to get ahead too. So every semester or every year at the Naval Academy, I basically went to summer school to make up for classes the first year or two, and then the last, I think, year or two, I went to summer school to get ahead.
Interesting.
And the second junior or sophomore year, oddly enough, I was getting better. And it was those hardcore classes like chemistry, physics, um, electrical engineering. They were the ones that really kicked my ass.
Yeah.
And it's I've never had it. So I compare it to martial arts. You start out as a white belt. I start out as a black belt. I can beat you all the time.
Hmm.
It's really that simple. I mean, and that's how it is in life. The more that you put effort into something, the better you'll be. And of course, if you're new at it, yes, it takes some time to get used to it. And I would literally go to my instructor, my chemistry instructor, physics instructor, and I would have all these extra instructions. And I always felt behind, and it's never a good feeling. So for those for those of you that want to go to the Naval Academy or to some form of higher learning, for sure academics is the way to go. And if that's where you want to go into the science field, or just like the academy, you got to be prepared academically.
Hmm.
I was prepared mentally, emotionally, physically, but academically,
Right.
Yeah, I was not there,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I didn't know how hard it was, and all I knew was what I know.
Right.
Yeah,
Hmm. Wow.
yeah.
And so through the 4 years you were there, did you have the chance to do anything more with martial arts, or was it sort of just like a club, an extracurricular?
Everybody's required to play some sport, and we were a club sport, but then you had a certain amount of billets that were considered like varsity, and so you would
Hmm.
get like a varsity an N, which was, or a K shirt that had like an N star kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So I obviously got it. I was the captain of the team, and there's, I don't know, a certain amount of people that were part of that, but um, that always gave me a sense of pride in what I was doing. And again, that helped me to be a better leader, being the captain of the team, and to learn how to take care of them. And I still remember going to these karate tournaments, and we were poor as a midshipman. You got like whatever it was,
Right.
three or $400 a month, and that included uniforms and stuff like that. And I remember going to a karate tournament, and me calling the tournament director and going, "Hey, we're midshipmen. What's the best deal you can give us?" And he's like, some Korean guy. He's like, "Oh, you could get a discount and all that stuff." And I remember paying like half of it,
Hey, there you
but
go.
you do everything you can to take care of the mids, and we would find rides there and get our own personal vehicles to get there, and it was fun. And then when we would have karate tournaments in nearby Philly and in Jersey, I remember my family wanted to host Filipino food.
Nice.
Again, I'd like, "Hey guys, my mom and dad and everybody else is gonna feed us afterwards, but if you want to chip in $5, we're all gonna eat at my house," and stuff like
Oh,
that. And
wow.
so it was cool though.
Yeah.
They got to see where I came from, and then a lot of them were like really surprised. They came in, and the humble beginnings of living in South Philly. I obviously didn't come from a silver spoon, and so they saw that the neighborhood that I lived in, and it's basically like Rocky. You know, we didn't have very much, but what we did have was a line full of trophies from one
Yeah.
side of the wall to the other side of the wall. They're like, "No wonder all this guy's damn good."
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a joke. My coach, John Kritz, was our karate instructor. He had a Porsche 911, and he would joke around with me. He's like, "Hey, Sal, are my wheels gonna be good?
Yeah.
Are they gonna steal my car around here?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Shut up, coach." But yeah, they were the fun times.
Cool. I bet your family loved that, being able to host all those
Oh
people.
yeah, they ate that up, and as a family, as a Filipino, traditional Filipino family, our thing is to always host parties, and we would have all these parties. And so Army Navy game, we would host parties, and
Hmm.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, we would have our midshipman friends that would stay over because they couldn't go back to Washington. One in particular, Vince Chankel, who became admiral. He's
Hmm.
one of 9 Filipino admirals
Oh,
that
cool.
actually made admiral, and he stayed with us. So we're very proud of him, and he's very true to his culture, and so he was around with us and competed with us, and it was just awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So do you remember that day that the butter bars got pinned on? You remember your commissioning?
Oh yeah. So yeah, that was fun. Graduation week was just probably one of the most amazing weeks because it's a culmination of everything that you did academically, all the things physically, the mental, the emotional challenges. And the coolest part was I had a bunch of my martial arts instructors that were there to celebrate. I even had my academic teachers that were there, my student council teachers that were there, and they were just so proud of me. I mean, I was literally the first one to go to the Naval Academy from Girard Academic Music Program,
Hmm.
and I don't know if anybody else has ever been, but it was such a cool um, time to graduate with the Blue Angels flying,
Yeah.
and I think I probably had one of the most number of people who came out.
Yeah.
Some of my friends from karate were all there, instructors, and we had a big party at the VFW, and
Nice.
it was just an amazing time. And
Yeah.
when you graduate, you feel like you can accomplish just about any dream that you want to accomplish, and it's just an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
You know.
Who pinned you?
Well, my mom, and I think my mom for sure did, and my probably my dad.
Yeah. Very
So
cool.
they were just so proud.
Ah,
You
I
know,
can only imagine.
it was definitely one of my proudest moment, and for them, that was like I was the first son to graduate in the United States of America. So um, coming from poor background in the Philippines and being able to do all of that stuff, that was just the culmination of who we are as a family.
Yeah. Awesome. American dream.
Yeah,
So we talked earlier about the first time you flew on an airplane, and that
yeah,
was you were like, "Wow, aviation's so cool." And
yeah,
so naval aviation is a huge thing, especially after Top Gun and all of
yeah.
that. So what happened with that in your life?
Yeah, so when I was 8, that was the first time I actually left anywhere. And my brother and I, Bernard, we were in our own suit and stuff, and we were looking all dapper, and we had our passports and everything in this little, whatever folder it was, and my brother and I were flying on Northwest jumbo jet, and we were all excited, and this was the first time that we're flying anywhere, and that was the first thought that my first dream came along. And I was always fascinated by this huge hunk of steel and how it
Hmm.
could fly. And I'm an 8-year-old kid, and this is great as a kid. You don't have any thoughts of how hard it's going to be or what you have to do, but
All right.
just this awesome uh, joy of not knowing what and just saying I want to do something.
Hmm.
That was the first time I thought of, man, how cool would it be to fly a plane? And that was literally the first goal I've ever set in my mind that I could think of. I was like, man, how cool would it be to fly?
Hmm.
And I remember going on that first plane taking off, and it was this huge trembling, the shaking and stuff like that, and flying. You're like, how does this thing fly? And then, so that was my first goal that I set in my mind to say, hey, I want to be a pilot one day. And that was the first time that I actually set a physical goal that I can remember.
Right. And if I can remember correctly, your time as an officer began not through aviation,
Mhm.
right? So you started as a surface warfare officer.
Yeah.
And what were the ships you were on?
Yeah. So I was on the Comstock first,
Okay.
and the reason why was because the you have to take this aviation selection test battery, and I was a bad test taker, like I guess
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
I know all about
So,
that.
so the SATs were not friends,
Yep.
but the cool thing about it is this, and this is what martial arts taught me, and I hope to teach you guys this, is that persistence is your belief in yourself, how much you believe in yourself and against all odds. And I took that SAT test 6 times,
Hmm.
not once, not twice, not 6 times, because I had a why that's bigger than anything. I knew that I wanted to go to the Naval Academy for multiple reasons. One, I wanted to fly. Two, my parents couldn't afford an education, so I knew that the Naval Academy would provide a free education. And three, I wanted to serve my country.
Hmm.
So to me, that was the perfect school for me. And I wanted to be challenged
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, physically, and everything that I am. And so that was the perfect school. And a lot of people don't like to put their eggs in one basket, but I do.
Hmm.
I'm all about just one laser focus and go after it. And so that's what I learned. And I think persistence over time, you can break down a lot of barriers. And that's that's all from martial arts and a little bit of kind of who I am. But for sure, martial arts will teach you to never give up. Your technique is never perfect on the first try, and you try 1,000 times to make that awesome sidekick. And if you have that same philosophy of being the very best or going after everything, you'll make it happen.
Yeah. So this sounds like foreshadowing then that you did eventually transition surface warfare to
Yeah,
naval aviation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so I never wanted to be a surface warfare officer. That wasn't my goal and dream. But again, success is not a straight path. It's ups and down. You go around
Right.
and do whatever you have to do to get to it.
Yeah.
And but it teaches you a lot about life, and that's there's no straightforward path. And so eventually I did pass it. Again, another testament to persistence. I had to get my surface warfare pin, but in every place that I've been, you always try to do your very best. You give it your very best. And I was generally always ranked first. I always did my very best because that's your signature, that's who you are. And so I was ranked first, and my commanding officer gave me uh, glowing reviews about how I was doing as the main propulsion assistant on the second ship,
Hmm.
and he was happy to say, I understand this is not what you want to do. You want to fly. I get all of that, and so go do your thing and do what you have to do. And his name was Captain Charles Weber, and I still remember him to this day. And he was just an amazing captain who just really looked after you.
Hmm.
And so I got accepted and went to flight school.
Awesome.
Another momentous day for me.
Absolutely. And what did you end up flying?
So, you know, um, I think everybody watched Top Gun, and so we wanted to. I wanted to fly F-14s, and then the next plane, cooler plane after that was the Super Hornet. So
Hmm.
one of those two was what I wanted to fly. And again, you go through ups and downs in life, and uh, giving it my very best, I got a 49 as an NSS, which is like a standard score that you get at the end of flight school, and you needed a 50.
Hmm.
And so life is about challenges, and I missed it by 1 point.
Hmm.
So what do I uh so to me, that was the first time that I can't go back and take a test. I
Hmm.
can't go back. It cost like $1 million at the time to train pilots,
Right.
and they're not going to send you through the same training again and do better. And in retrospect, what you're doing, which is to get your private pilot's license,
Hmm.
probably the only thing I could have done.
Hmm.
But I know deep down, I know that I did everything I can. I studied. I didn't party. I didn't smoke. I didn't do drugs. I didn't do any of that stuff. It was always studying and doing all of that. So um, maybe if I went to an engineering school, maybe I would have done better.
Hmm.
And I didn't know anything otherwise. But invest in yourself. And I remember as an ensign thinking, man, I can't afford $10,000 because we're only ensigns. But
Right.
looking back, I should have probably gotten a loan, do something to invest in yourself so that you feel adequate to do the job.
Right.
And it was always challenging for me.
Yeah.
And and I would say that investing in yourself and that knowledge will will kind of just say, I literally did everything.
Hmm.
But again, I didn't know that, and I was a young ensign who didn't have the money, and so that would be the only thing I would change. But can't go back. I know I did everything, and yeah, it was definitely a sad time not being able to make the grade for jets.
Right. And they gave you EP3s, correct?
Yeah.
So you did some operations over the Middle East, kind of post 9/11 time,
Mhm.
global war on terror. And you were hunting for Bin Laden for a bit, I
Yeah.
think you mentioned. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty
So
significant.
yeah, I didn't get to fly the F-14s, and you're sad. But I did well enough to be able to choose my first duty station, and so I got EP3s, and I got to fly out of Rota, Spain, which is like the best duty state.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the lifestyle, the I mean the location. It's basically San Diego, but better. It's definitely the best. It's not even probably the best kept secret, but it was such an amazing place. You know, when you go to places like Spain, you get to see a different culture and
Hmm.
how people live, and I enjoyed it, loved it, and flying out of Rota, Spain, and you get to do all these detachments out of Suda Crete, and one was in Incirlik, Turkey,
Hmm.
and that's where we were flying to go over Afghanistan, and
Wow.
we were searching for Bin Laden back in 2002. And I didn't know how serious it was until I think I saw an F-16 flying next to us. We're like,
Oh
what the
my
heck?
gosh.
Well, what are they doing next to us? I guess
Yeah.
someone's about to shoot us or something. But yeah, we were looking for him, and obviously we didn't find him. He
Sure.
was
Yeah.
under a rock in Islamabad.
Yeah.
So, but it was still cool nonetheless to be able to say, hey, yes, we didn't find him, but as a duty to your country, we were
Yeah.
doing everything to find the bad guy, the villain at the time, and I was part of that. So
Yeah.
that's a cool thing.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And so you've been in the Navy at this point 8 years ish. Is that about right?
This was 2002, so that's like 596, 4, 5, 6 years now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there ever a point where martial arts kind of got sidetracked? I mean, being active duty military on a ship and then
Yeah.
flying. How did you balance keeping up with martial arts?
Everywhere I got stationed, I did martial arts.
Wow.
So whether I was on the ship, on the Comstock, you'll see me training. I was on the flight deck, doing my forms, punching the bag, stretching. I was always teaching because I enjoyed and loved martial arts. And I would, if anybody wanted to train, I'd train with them. So it was just this thing that I had, that I just love martial arts. And so everywhere I go, I was always training, even on deployment. Even when I was in Rota, Spain, I would teach at a racquetball court,
Hmm.
just to spread the passion of martial arts. And I would just charge whatever I needed to charge for the racquetball court. And I still remember one time, um, we were on detachment. I think we were in Bahrain, and I was training for 2002 World Championship,
Hmm.
and I was going to be sponsored by MWR, and so I didn't have anybody to train with. And again, this is a good story about Will and your wife. And I was just training by myself. And I remember talking to my coach, John Kritzes. I was like, hey, I don't have anybody to spar with, coach. And, I don't have anybody to train with. How do I practice my reflexes and stuff like that?
Hmm.
And he's like, Sal, all you got to do is find yourself a corner, do your roundhouse kicks, do your shadow boxing, do your forms and all that stuff. And a lot of visualization and things like that, and that's what I would do. I would go in the pool and do a lot of kicks and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and I would just train, pretending I was fighting someone, and do rounds of sparring, and so I think a lot of people make excuses, and sure enough, I competed, and I took 3 first place, and
And that was a world
yeah, the World
champion.
Championship, and I was written up in the Road to Spain
Hmm.
magazine. It was really cool, and they made a big deal out of it, and I was written up in, I guess that was the MWR magazine,
Hmm.
and I was the European Athlete of the Year and
Oh,
things
cool.
like that. So
Oh my God.
it was really cool, and that kind of reminds me of the POWs. I don't know the guy's name who was golfing.
Oh
They
yeah.
were talking about this guy who didn't have a golf cart, or a golf, what do you call
Golf
it?
club.
A
Yeah.
golf club, because I don't golf. But the moral of the story is he visualized that he was golfing,
Yeah.
and before it, he had whatever score, and then he comes out of this POW camp and actually has a lower score.
That's incredible.
So
Yeah.
that's the power of your mindset visualization.
Yeah.
And I always visualize myself like being a champion, or I always visualize myself going to the Naval Academy, or I always visualize myself being a pilot. So yes, you may not accomplish every goal and dream that you set for life, but if you see yourself doing it, if you believe it, you'll probably accomplish most of it.
Mm.
And it's a really cool thing to see that. And I didn't even train with anybody. It was just me and the corner wall, and my goal of this is what I wanted to do. And you make it happen, and some goals you can't, but you do your very best, and you'll probably win half if not most of it.
Hmm.
Visualize. It's really neat.
Yeah.